This is a quick guide to the wave rig. So in some scenes we're going to start seeing this show up. Essentially this is the rig right here. That's the top node right there. And I've built into it in some scenes a basic single wave, just so that you can understand how it functions. Now there is a small element of dynamics work going on in this, so if you press play you're going to get a slightly different result than if you scrub. The scrubbing is pretty good, but you really do have to press play and let it run through all the frames in order for it to give you a more accurate idea of what's exactly happening. But let me just pull it over here so that you can understand what it is. So actually, first let's take a look at this. This is just the basic dome that we've put in here to give you an idea of where the sea is. Let me move the wave rig out of the way. So the whole point of this is that it can be lifted, moved around, and if necessary scaled. So we can have a different idea of how big the sea is in different shots. This is the basic position, but if you're going to be working with the wave rig, then you probably want to just hide the globe. So let's do that now. Hide that. Actually, what I should probably do is put it in a layer instead and hide that there. Okay, so then we've got the wave rig, and really all that's happening here is that you use these controls here to sculpt the shape of the wave that you're looking for. Now you're not going to see it interactively change right now, but basically you create this shape on the frames that you want it on, and you can see it's actually animating here through the course of the wave, but it'll only actually update the geometry as you scrub and press play. Okay. Then the next controller you're interested in is this one here, which is literally a slider. That's all it is. But that is essentially, you want to just leave that on a linear curve moving at an even speed throughout the scene, and then on top of that you're animating these other controllers to give you control over the actual wave itself. Over here we've got some additional controllers to help you work with the lead-in. Things can get a little bit complicated with these because obviously as this approaches it starts to overlap with this, so I'm finding that you have to sort of animate it back away as this is approaching. So that's something to bear in mind. The next thing you want to be doing, I actually found that I needed to decide how high was my wave going to get to and how low was it going to get to. So I just put down a piece of geometry at those two extremes, and then I worked with the wave trying to make sure that it rose to that and then dropped to that. And then once the wave is worked out, you just go over to the log, and you can use this to animate the log up and down. There have been some attempts to make the log constrained to this surface, but we're finding that that's not very reliable. It doesn't give you a good result every time, because literally if you kept running the simulation of the wave, the log gets shunted along, and you can end up with the log in a very different position to where you were originally working with it. So I'm not worrying about that, I'm just manually animating it up and down. And that's it really. It's not as complicated as it looks. There are a couple of other things to bear in mind. Let's say we put this back on. Now I've matched over this small patch area, I've matched the curve of this wave to fit with where it is. Now let's say for example you need a much bigger area, you're looking out to sea further, you might want to scale this up. So you can do that, you can scale it out, no harm in that. But once you do that, you also want to work with the curve. So we've got a curve value here, and you can change the curve to fit whatever you want. Now bear in mind that, again, it depends on the shot as to how big the sea needs to be, how big the planet needs to be, all that kind of stuff. So this is all highly changeable, but obviously once you lift it up, now my wave is considerably higher than my rock, so I'd have to animate these things down. So probably one of the first decisions you want to make is, how far can I see out to sea? Am I working very closely and intimately up against the rock, in which case it can be a small patch like this, or do I need to be able to see a much bigger area and perhaps widen things out, So think about that when you're going into it. The next thing to bear in mind is that some sequences require multiple waves, and the only way to do that, as far as I can tell, is to animate the wave all the way through to here and then snap it back here and move it over again. And I haven't found a way to make that continuous and clean. It does do a little bit of a popping thing in the simulation between one extreme and the other. So generally speaking, you're going to have to, that's a trickier thing, and so far I'm the only one that's doing that. So hopefully everybody else's scenes only have one wave in them, which keeps things nice and simple for them. But that's how it works if you do have multiple waves. And other than that, we've got, if on this controller here, there's a wave offset, which is actually that little mini wave that's just kind of like an extra additive thing that adds a little bit more wateriness to it for the time being. Now all of this is just a broad stroke. It's like a previs wave designed to get us in the ballpark. It puts the wave in the right shape at the right time, so that you can animate your scene. On top of this, we will be adding additional effects that make the water interact with the log more closely, and add more ripples and foam and all that kind of stuff. So really think of this as a previs and animation wave, but I think it's something that we can use throughout a good portion of the production, and then at some point it'll probably get baked out, ready for effects artists to work with. If you need to work, if you're doing a wider shot where you're just seeing general sea, then we would use this thing instead, and instead we would just apply effects to this dome instead of having this giant wave. This is really just for those sort of close-up custom waves. Okay, that's that. I just wanted to help you and get you on the right page in terms of working with the wave. Thanks.